Hello everyone, this is Jesse the Literate Barbarian. I'm bringing you my Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 3 reactions and then Episode 4 predictions. I know it's Saturday right before Episode 4 is out, but still, I'm sure a few people will be able to see this, and at least I'll have it down if I guess anything right, which I usually don't. And I'm still going with that's not my fault completely. Um, my biggest issue with watching the show is I've read the books, and the books in the show I think the endings are going to be very different. And so I'm trying to guess with pieces I know from the books, but I should just disregard a lot of it. I should just stick with the show and what the show, because the show's usually pretty straightforward. I want to go through, the long night is what the episode was, and when I first watched it, I was actually pretty upset. Chris Powell, we sat in his kitchen for an hour. We pissed off his wife. We pissed off some other people, but we sat in there complaining about Game of Thrones for, I don't know, like we were pretty pissed off. But let me kind of go through that because I've calmed down. I've watched it a few more times. I've calmed down since then. I think it's better than I was giving it credit for. And there's, we got to take things in context and understand it, right? So it starts off with the battle, and you have the Dothraki. So you're taking about half your force because there's supposed to be like 40 to 50,000 Dothraki or something like that. I'm not sure how many survived all the other battles, but you're taking 100% of your cavalry, 100%, and they're just sending them right at the army that they can't see. I actually don't have a problem with them attacking with the cavalry. Don't have a problem with that at all. It seems like you'd want to keep some on the flanks and try to outflank them and try to use them and just try to, instead of just charging forward like that, when you cannot see the enemy and you don't know how big the force is. I don't get a lot of that. But at the same time, in most of this battle, the cavalry would have been worthless. Like, so keep that in mind. There's nothing you could have really done with them. It's going to be a siege of a castle. Cavalry's not great unless you can keep them out. It does seem, to me, what I was thinking the whole time is like, okay, why don't you either split your cavalry up, and you want to throw away some of your cavalry, fine, because they actually did that in, I think it's book 2. Robb Stark, who's, Ned's already dead. You have Robb Stark, who's, I can't remember if it's at the Twins or what it is. Chris would remember, and I just can't remember. He has to split up his army and his cavalry so that he can actually get to the Twins. That's what it is, I think. So he can get to the Freys and get more help, right? To build an army against the Lannisters. So there are times when they sacrifice people. Just usually don't sacrifice half your army within the first like 5 minutes of the battle. So like and then of course, in the idea would be like, if we sacrifice our cavalry like that, we lose. And then not only do you lose like 50,000 troops, the undead gain 50,000 troops. They also, seems like they would gain 50,000 cavalry. But what I was thinking is why not try to lure the army of the dead closer and keep a contingent of cavalry on one of the edges, or use Jon and Dany, which they almost kind of did with the show, to you lure in the army close, and then you try to kill the generals from the backside. Now Jon runs into him, but it seems like it's more like random than anything else, and then he gets blown off course because of the storm. Fine, whatever. So there's some things they could have done different. The whole cavalry is obviously decimated, and some of their plans don't work out because of that. Dany takes off, so they're not able to light the moat when they're supposed to. And and I guess part of the maybe part of the thing here is that they wanted to just show how futile their efforts would be, because the army of the dead just completely run them over. I mean, they just absolutely destroy the armies. The Dothraki, the Unsullied, they destroy everything. Okay, so what do we get? The Night King makes an appearance. So I was wrong, like in the books, and maybe I'm going to be wrong. We'll see. In the books, I can almost guarantee the last, or the big, huge battle that everything leads up to is with the Night King. Like the Night King over 7 books, or 5 books so far, has been set up as it's like a battle of life against death. I think they modified it a little bit for the show because maybe they didn't have the full context of exactly, and they're probably not trying to spoil Martin's ending as well, because I think there's going to be more there than what they're giving us right now. They kind of gave us in some parts, it doesn't hold up as well as I'd like it to. So you get Jon, Dany, and the Night King. I figured they'd do this because how can you resist having 3 dragons in the air fighting? And they have some beautiful shots with the moon in the background. I think that's all cool. I really like that. Looks good. I wish they'd have done more of that, like up where the moon's at. I think if they fought more up there, that would have been pretty cool. But it looked good anyway. Like it looks pretty good. Eventually, Jon, Jon's dragon takes the Night King's dragon down. The Night King has to bell, and you think you're going to get, Daenerys comes down and tries to burn the Night King. Night King doesn't burn. Then people start suggesting online that maybe he's a Targaryen. Yeah, I don't think that's right. I don't think the Targaryens even get there until after the Night King's already created, years upon years upon years after. I'm not positive on that, but I'd have to double check. But I don't think that's true. I think it's because he's the Night King. They couldn't just kill him with a dragon. That'd be really lame, right? If they would have just ended it right there. You can't end it right there. Plus, it causes all kinds of speculation. You don't get so then you have Jon not getting the duel with the Night King because the Night King brings back the armies of I'm not sure if it's the armies. I'm not sure if he's also able to bring back the people that were killed by Dragonglass or not. I would assume no. I think they were just bringing back their own people against him who just died on the battlefield. So Jon doesn't get his duel. Dany saved by Jorah. And this whole time, there's like all kinds of stuff going on, right? People are dying everywhere. You got people down in the crypts. You got all kinds of stuff going on. Winterfell's completely overrun. For some reason, they're not manning the walls right away. As soon as they have to get back into the castle, they're not manning the walls right away. I don't get that. Melisandre, she plays. I'll talk about her in a second, but she lights the trench and people get behind the walls, but then some of it doesn't exactly make sense. So it's kind of whatever. But also, Dany, she falls off her dragon. And Jorah ends up being there to protect her. So there's a cool scene there. I'll explain that in a second. The crypts, I think the crypts is like one of the biggest mistakes in this part of the show. Because the crypts, a lot of people online were going, oh gosh, you can't send people to the crypts because, there's undead down there and they can come back to, there's dead people down there. They can come back to life. And I thought, okay, no, they're not going to do that. That's so obvious. Like that's like the lowest hanging fruit. Everyone would have guessed that. I mean, there's not a single person who didn't guess that would be a possibility. So I thought, okay, in the books, you have Lady Stoneheart. And you have other people that, when they're brought back to life, like Lady Stoneheart, and I'm not sure, she's vengeful at the time, and she's kind of evil, but she at least has some kind of consciousness. I just didn't get it. Just having all the Starks down there. You're using the old Starks, because, what would have been cool is if you could have, you bring back some of the Starks. You bring back, Catelyn Stark, Lady Stoneheart, and whatever other Starks you can to maybe help protect the people in the crypts from. It just makes sense to do that. I don't like what they did. So be it, though. Another part that gets me is the Night King. We're given so little with the Night King, and what gets me is when I should have said it when Dany tries to burn him, he smiles. Now, what does that smile tell me? That smile tells me that he is a conscious being, and he understands that that's funny, that she couldn't kill him, that there's something there, right? And yet they never let him speak in the episode, which is aggravating. I would have loved to have heard something, but I'm guessing the reason they did that is because George R. R. Martin did not want them ruining his potential ending. I guess they could have done something else with it, but I'm going to guess he didn't want them ruining his ending, so they just left it like that, even though you never get any closure. And that's the big thing here for me. I've waited all this time for the Night King, and you don't get any closure with the Night King because you have no idea, like, what were his motives? What was he doing? Maybe they'll explain it in this next episode. I'm going to guess they probably won't explain too much. Maybe they'll give you a little bit. But I don't think that's going to be the big thing. I think they're going to kind of just move on past it. So I don't like that. Some things that I find interesting. So we had the Melisandre stuff. She said earlier in season 7 that she was going to have to come back to this land and die. So I knew she was going to come back. I'd talked about it before. Of course, she's got to come back and she's going to play some kind of role, right? I figured she was going to play a bigger role than she did. Like, she did light the trench after it didn't light, and they try to light it, and people die. I don't know. She does light the trench, which is, it's pretty obvious. And then she gives Arya the idea that, that Arya was supposed to kill people with certain color eyes. Eyes of brown, eyes of green, eyes of blue, I think is what she says. So then Arya gets this idea that, okay, that she is going to kill the Night King, I'm guessing. And so then there's a couple pieces I find interesting. Bran, he's like warging the whole time. I don't know what exactly he's doing, because if you just keep watching it, he's doing it even when the Night King is basically already there to him. He knows where the Night King's at. So what is he doing? My thought on that is that he's actually warging into Arya. Now, you can say, well, maybe he won't have the ability. Maybe that's not even true. But what I think it would be, see, Bran used to, when Bran was, before he was in a wheelchair, and before he became, the whatever he is these days, three-eyed raven, whatever he might be, he was like the best climber, one of the best climbers in Winterfell. He could climb all over in Winterfell, up the castle walls. He knew routes that other people wouldn't have known, right? And I think Arya would have needed that knowledge to get to the Night King, because I don't see any other way around it. They're in the middle of like the Godswood part of it, where it's not next to a wall, and she kind of comes flying in a little bit. And maybe she did just run past all those people. Maybe. You see a general's hair move a little bit. Maybe that's true. I don't know. I want to guess. If I had to guess, I'd say that Bran helps her along the way, climb certain routes, whatever, to help her get to that point where that she can kill the Night King. So then you get Arya. Like, you don't get the Jon Night King battle. You get the Arya Night King. And she uses that same move she used with Brienne earlier in season 7 of, dropping that dagger, catching him with the other hand, stabbing him, and he dies. Like, after, you have a whole scene, and the ending part is actually really good. It's really well done. Like, the music is beautiful. Jon's held down by the dragon. You have Jorah protecting Dany. You have all kinds of things going on. All these people fighting to the death. Really well done. Beautiful scene. And then you have Arya kind of, and you know something's going to happen. You know that Bran's not going to die, or at least you feel that way. You're not exactly sure what's going on. And I don't know. I think that turned out to be a really well done scene. The whole ending. I'm still annoyed that the Night King didn't get a talk. I'm annoyed there was no closure between him and Bran or anything. The tactics I still find weird. I figured they were going to try to focus on the generals to kind of trim down the army. So like all the generals would die first. I figured they'd die first, and then maybe you get a weakened Night King fighting against either Jon or somebody, right? That would have made sense to me. Another piece you're getting at the same time, I forgot to mention that I really like, is Sansa Tyrion. So you get them down the crypts where nobody, like, where the dead come back to life, start killing people, and you have this little moment between Tyrion and Sansa. And they threw me off a little bit, because I've kind of always guessed that Sansa and Tyrion would eventually actually be married, because they were married earlier, like by force. And in the book, it's described a lot better, and it's described in a sexual manner, because they don't consummate the marriage, but they explain part of the process and why Tyrion doesn't go through with it, kind of a thing. It's really well done and interesting in its own way, I guess. So then you get a conversation between them that's really good. That's about how the marriage would have never worked, and it seems like that's going to be a very good possibility here. Which, last episode I would have almost guessed that maybe they're going to try to do the whole Theon Sansa because they'd had that connection, and I didn't get that fully. So a lot of the stuff, I didn't really like. Some of the battle plans are kind of ridiculous, and that's fine. It's here's the problem is we've seen so many good battles, right? We've seen different stuff in Lord of the Rings from movies that are $100 to $300 million, and you get these great battle scenes. Well, in this, you get 82 minutes or whatever, and I think the whole episode is like $15 million or something. So you just don't have the same budget, right? So it's not really fair. I understand why I kind of get why they got rid of the cavalry, because the cavalry, if they were going to keep doing it, it was going to cause more problems and it was going to affect the whole storyline. So I think they just kind of threw them away right at the beginning. Like, and maybe, the Dothraki probably would have agreed to such a plan. They're kind of like that anyway, right? I mean, they're all about strength. They would have been like, no, let's just let us ride out there. I would think in my head though that everybody would be like, no, this is not a good idea. But I guess the biggest thing that gets me about the whole battle plan and a lot of the plans surrounding it is all the people knew better. Sorry, I keep coughing. It's messing with me. But all the people already knew better. Like John knew not. He would know not to send 40,000, 50,000 all of his cavalry right at the heart of that army. Like John would know better. Doesn't make sense to me. Same thing with the crypts. Not only could we all guess that there was an issue with the crypts, John, Dan, everybody, Tyrion, anyone who would even know about it, Bran, anyone who would think about it for a second would know not to do that because of the potential, not having any weapons down there and not having anybody to defend these people. Why would you do that? They already know better. Like, it's not that, it was too predictable that we could guess it. It was that it was so predictable that even the people in the show would have known. That's what I don't like about that. Because all the people in the show would have known not to do this. It's fine. I mean, it's a small piece. It's whatever. But I mean, there's still some good crypt scenes. There's still a lot of good battle scenes, which I'm going to get to here in a second. The cool stuff with the Hound, cool stuff with Brienne and Jaime and Sam and Davos. There's a lot of still a lot of good scenes in the show. Okay, so what? I think that's yeah. Battle tactics. I didn't like what they did with the crypts. I didn't like what they did with Melisandre, and I'll kind of explain that here in a second of what I think they should have done. Yeah, so there's still a lot of good stuff here. Things I did like. The production's always good. Looks good. I think the whole episode has like a certain theme, like a feel to it, right? Like an atmosphere. It builds up an atmosphere that's perfect. You had the storm coming in and some people were complaining about it being too dark, and I guess it had to do with so many people trying to watch it at the same time that it was a highly compressed version. Whatever. So it wasn't actually the showrunner's fault. I liked the whole setting and mood, and I even liked the whole idea of them being completely overrun. That this is a futile battle. Like everybody is going to die that stands in their way. They were an undefeatable force, and it kind of gives you that feeling. Of course, when you're waiting back here and you're just like, okay, what's the trick? How are they going to get out of it? But still, it sets up a nice dark mood. Them kind of being pushed back and back and back, and just the completely overwhelming force from these, from the Night King's army. So I did like all that. I like the Jon, Dany stuff. Still good stuff. The dragon battles were cool. Almost everything looks cool. Most of the characters. I mean, what was going on? It looks cool, right? I mean, I know that's not a good explanation, but it is. And it did look good. And the Hound looked. A lot of the running through Winterfell looked pretty good. The Arya stuff looked good. I can appreciate a lot of that. Okay, so what else we got here? So we have some good buys here. Okay, first one is Ghost. And I guess, because I figured they wouldn't kill Ghost like that, because they just run him off with the Dothraki army. Figured they're not going to kill him. Doesn't make sense to go ahead and just throw him away like that, not even give him anything, not give him even a send-off, not even show that he died. As soon as the show doesn't show somebody died, I don't believe it. Okay, I don't believe. I'm going to get to another person here in a second. I just don't believe. They don't show me that people dead. I don't believe they're dead. And you shouldn't fall for it. Now, one person I did think was dead was Jon's dragon, not Rhaegar, but Rhaegal. I thought the dragon was dead. Because when it smacks in the ground, okay, the Jon and the Night King's dragons are fighting. I thought he killed the Night King's dragon, and then his dragon smashes in the ground, and you never see him again during the battle. But here's the thing: when the Night King re-raises the dead, then a blue dragon appears again, and I thought he was it looked like to me that Jon's dragon was biting through the neck of the Night King's dragon, Viserion or whatever. That he was biting through the neck, so I thought, okay, this dragon's definitely dead. And then the dragon that was, brought back to life was actually Jon's dragon, so now you're down to 1 dragon. I was wrong because they show in the new trailer Ghost and Rygel. Another person you get is Lyanna Mormont. So the Mormonts are inside of Winterfell. And I was, before this happened, I was like, where are all the giants? Because they're supposed to have a bunch of giants too. I mean, they're going to have a giant army. I think they're going to have ice spiders too. Whatever. But you get the Lyanna Mormont scene. The Mormont people, they're all, they're right inside of the gate. Giant breaks through. Her whole people, they're all slaughtered. I figured they were going to kill her. I kind of guessed. I guess they were going to do that. And, the giant ends up picking her up, basically squeezing her to death, bringing her close. I don't know if he was going to try to eat her. I'm not sure what he was doing. And then she stabs him in the eye and he dies. It's a cool scene. It looks good. Scene looks good. I think it's a good scene. And then you get Jorah Mormont. They gave Jorah Mormont probably one of the coolest endings that I've seen out of most of the characters in the show. He gets to defend, after Dany falls off her dragon, because he hears her dragon, so he starts trying. I don't know how he would get there. Whatever. Doesn't matter. He does get there, and he protects Dany. He kills a hell of a lot of White Walkers. It's a cool scene. Looks good. It's him and Dany kind of fighting together, even though she's not really adept with any kind of weapons. But they fight together until, the army falls and he falls and dies. And it's really well done. Really well done. Beric Dondarrion. Beric Dondarrion has already died something like 6 times before. He died earlier to the Hound. He died. He guy dies a lot. He just lost his priest. So yeah, and I kind of, you could see it in this episode. Pretty much all the deaths were kind of very predictable, and that's fine. It's whatever, because you can only give away so many people. And here's the issue with not having with building Cersei up as the big bad guy and having the Night King right here, is you can't really allow a lot of your main characters to die. So then the characters you're getting are like the second-rate characters who are going to be dying off. And I liked Beric. Beric's cool. Gives up his life to protect the Hound and Arya. Well done. I thought it was good. Theon. Kind of already guessed Theon was going to die too. Makes sense. He finally got to have that hero arc. Now, originally I thought Theon would get to kill his uncle. Doesn't get that chance. But he defends Bran as long as he can. And then I do think, and Bran's like, hey, man, you're actually a good guy. You have a good heart. I think it's a cool scene. I have no idea why Theon charges at the Night King. I guess maybe he just knows that he's already dead. So he's might as well charge him with a spear. I'm not sure about that. Melisandre. Okay, now I thought she was going to have a bigger role. She lights the barricade on fire. Cool. She gives some information to Arya that puts Arya back in that mindset. Because Arya's a little bit, she's a little afraid. I mean, things are going really poor. And she kind of looks like she looks out of her wits, right? She doesn't look how she normally does. And when Melisandre gives her that information, Arya is, she becomes completely laser focused on killing the Night King. Which and that stuff's all well done. It's well done. I would have been, when they find Melisandre, she's in a room. In the middle of the battle. She's in a room. Everybody's dead around her. I'm curious. I'd love to see how that happened. That would have been pretty cool. And then at the end of it, after everything's said and done, because then her and the Hound do nothing else. They just sit in this room the rest of the time. I don't know. I can't figure it out. And then at the end, she walks out. After everything's said and done, she walks out, takes off her necklace, and then becomes that old woman again. And because she is an old woman, and falls to her death. Now, when this scene was setting up, when I was watching it live, I was like, here's what's going to happen. Because I come up with stupid ideas all the time. I said, okay, she's going to walk out there. She's going to bring back at least part of their army. I thought, because, she could, with the Lord of Light's power, she was able to bring back individuals. I thought she was going to give up her life to bring back part of their army or something. Because, when you're watching the show... When you're watching the show, it looks like everybody's dead, other than all the main characters. So then it looks like you have an army of 15 people, right? And I thought, okay, that's not going to be, how's that going to work? And they just have her die instead and don't bring back anybody. So in my head, it looked, in my head, the idea was really cool. It didn't work out. Okay, the final farewell, like I said, is to the Night King. So he's gone. And at this, I was, I was complaining a lot about it initially. I was pretty pissed off because I felt like we didn't get any closure. And maybe if you just watch the show, maybe it's just kind of whatever, But reading the books too, it's like I had something more in this, right? And I just kept thinking, why didn't they give us a little bit? Why didn't they give us something? And then I just kept being drawn. And here's why I don't focus on this too much anymore. It's because I get drawn back, and this is why I don't criticize this. I'm not going to bash this episode. I think it was really well done, actually. The battle didn't turn out how I thought it was going to turn out. Like, in terms of, I figured they would do a better job of planning it. They didn't seem like they put as much preparation to it as they could have. And I don't think, it wouldn't have taken somebody in the military. It wouldn't have taken, like, some strategist to do this. I think just about anybody, if they would have talked to just somebody, they would have given them a better battle plan than this. And maybe you can say, well, they were attacked too quickly and couldn't devise a plan. I don't know. It's not a good plan. So if that was Jon's plan, it's not a good plan. He's not a good planner. I thought Tyrion was going to be the main piece, but I'll save that for a second. So yeah, you don't get closure, but this $15 million episode, you're filming a huge battle that took, I can't remember how long. I can't remember if they said like 40 nights to film that one piece. I can't remember now, but it takes a whole lot to do this, and there's still some beautiful scenes in it. If you just, you kind of have to go with it. There's movies that cost $100 million that have the most ridiculous battle plans. There's all kinds of stuff to do this. Watch a new Star Wars. You'll see all kinds of ridiculous stuff. So I can't be too mad at it. They did what they could, and and I appreciate that. Still worked out pretty well. The ending is the same, right? Like it's still on course. It's not going to be. I think they didn't want to ruin Martin's ending as well. So you don't have the money. You don't want to ruin Martin's ending. You're saving that for Martin, and those books haven't been written yet, so they don't really have a good blueprint. The directors and writers, they don't have a good blueprint on how it's going to turn out, or at least not how to get there. At least maybe they know the ending, but not how to get there necessarily. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for episode 3. I'm at the end of the day, I'm happy with it. I've watched it the first time I watched it, I was like, I was pretty down on it. Then I watched it again, and I felt better. And I think I've watched it like 2 more times on my DVR since. And each time I watch it, I feel better about the episode. I feel good. There's some beautiful stuff in it. Even when the cavalry goes out, as ridiculous as it is, like when you have like light fighting darkness, right? That whole idea. And you have the cavalry charge out with their torches, and then all the torches go out. That's still, it's poetic in its own way. It's still well done. It's just kind of also ridiculous. When another cool scene, I guess, was when Drogon almost dies because he just gets overwhelmed with all these White Walkers on him. I thought they might actually kill both the dragons. I was starting to worry that they were just going to kill everybody. Still well done. Okay, so that's it for episode 3. Episode 4. This is a little different place. I didn't figure we'd have this kind of episode, or at least not exactly this type of episode. I thought maybe more would happen in the lead up. So, episode 4, somebody was like, I think it's just going to be 80 minutes of them piling up bodies, or maybe even taking like another couple years. Because imagine if you're trying to get rid of all these bodies, right? Just to even remove all the bodies. Because their army, I bet they look like they're down to like 500 people at most, right? And then before this, they were at like 70,000. Dothraki army should have been like 40, 50,000. Get troops from the Vale, you get troops from other places in the north. It's got to, plus the Unsullied, it's got to be like a 40 to 70,000 man army. And these people are all dead. And who knows how many civilians you'd also have die. So just even moving the bodies would be ridiculous. Like it would just take forever. So they're going to clean up Winterfell, kind of reestablishing Winterfell. And I'm guessing they're going to start building alliances with the rest of the North, or more of the North is going to arrive. My guess is some groups might even be like, hey, we were trying to get here for the battle, but we got caught in the storm. And another houses completely died. So I think some of them are just either wiped out, couldn't make it because of the storm, or will finally come back. I think it makes sense to finally have the Jon Dany marriage, but maybe they won't do this. Maybe they're going to wait till the last episode. But if you want, because now Dany has no army, right? She lost basically everybody. Now she needs, like her and Jon need each other. It makes too much sense to do this. Plus, if Jon is the king in the north, then more of the north will back him for the wars to come. Makes sense. Makes total sense. I think another person who's going to make a, I think we're going to see some of the Reeds. House Reed, Howland Reed, and Mira Reed. Mira Reed was the girl who was saving Bran earlier with Bran. And she kind of left for a while. I think she's going to finally come back. And Howland Reed, I think, is going to be in this episode. I feel like it. He'll either be in this episode or the last episode. I think. Because he was the only person with Ned Stark at the Tower of Joy all those years ago to confirm who Jon is. And I think they're going to need that confirmation. Like, they're not going to just... Dany seems a little skeptical. Now, they just got to fight a major battle and all that stuff, whatever. But I think they're going to need confirmation. He's the one to do it. So it makes sense to bring Howland Reed finally back. I think another house that we're going to see come to help Winterfell, because this whole battle is going to be, this whole next episode is going to be setting up for the battle at King's Landing, right? Another house, House Tully. And what I've been saying for a long time is that the Blackfish, Brendan Tully, is still alive, because you don't see him dead. The only people that report that he's dead are the Freys. The Freys tell Jaime's like, hey, did you kill him? And some Frey says, yeah, he fought him to death or something, and wherever, but they don't show his body. I don't believe it. Brendan Tully, the Blackfish, was known to be able to get out of anything. I would say he might still be alive. But I think the Tullys are going to be back. I think you're going to see them contacting the Vale, Dorne, whatever is left of Highgarden. I'm not sure who's still out there, if those people are all Lannisters now, but maybe there's some other houses. Not positive. I think there's going to be a push for Sam to take over House Tarly and bring anybody from House Tarly to the north. I would think maybe that's not a possibility, but it seems like with his brother and his dad dead, I mean, he is the heir to House Tarly. Makes sense. What's going on with House Baratheon? You have Gendry. Gendry's already admitted to Arya who he was. You need houses in the north, or I mean, I guess it's not technically the north; it's more whatever, but it's Storm's End or whatever it is. But you need that house as well. If there's anything even left of it, I don't even know what's left. I have no idea what's going on still. So you're gonna build up, work on some kind of a northern alliance, and well, not just northern, north, east, south, everybody, all the other kingdoms, because you're also gonna have Asha, or Yara, I guess she is in the show, and in the book she's Asha. You're gonna have her taking over the Iron Islands. So there's going to be a lot of moving pieces in this next one, where you're trying to just get everything ready for a battle at King's Landing. And my guess is that Bronn is going to arrive at Winterfell, and Tyrion is going to come up with a big plan. And I still think it's going to end the same way. With certain people, I guess before, that certain characters were going to go to King's Landing. Now I think the whole army is going to go to King's Landing, but I think a certain group of characters is going to break into King's Landing. And I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work out yet, because I have a couple different ideas. One is that Bronn's going to come there. They're going to work out a plan with Bronn to take Tyrion and Jaime captive and take them into Casterly Rock. Then you'll have other people potentially break in. If that doesn't work out that way, which I think it might, I mean, I think that makes sense, right? Because then it also sets up, I've been guessing this whole time, that Jaime, who kills the Mad King, also ends up killing the Mad Queen. He's already the King Slayer. He might be the Queen Slayer by the end of this. And, Kinslayer as well. Makes sense for him to kill Cersei. And I think that's going to happen. So if that doesn't happen, the armies are still going to come down there. I still feel like Arya, Jaime, maybe Tyrion. I don't know why you'd bring him though. And a handful of other people. The Hound. They're going to break inside, because the Hound and the Mountain are going to fight. It's just the way it is now. There's no other. I mean, like, he didn't die against the Night King. This is guaranteed at this point. This is going to happen. So it's the Clegane Bowl. So you're going to get that. Yeah. The dragons, I mean, I still worry about them killing off one of the dragons, because Casterly Rock knows how to kill them off. I think, who was it? I can't remember now. Somebody, I can't think of his name, the guy that's with Cersei, Qyburn. He's going to get outsmarted too. And maybe use Varys for that. Varys Varys was, he always had his little birds. When he was in Casterly Rock, not Casterly Rock, King's Landing, he had his own little birds that would kind of go through the city. If anybody would be able to outsmart Qyburn with this ton of stuff, with these crazy killer children he has, it seems like it'd be Varys. I think Varys is going to come up with that part of that kind of idea. There's going to be a lot of different, like I said, a lot of different moving pieces to be able to defeat Cersei's army, and then we'll see how that goes. And that Daenerys, or at least the woman who plays her, she's saying that episode 5 is supposed to be an even bigger battle than the Long Night was. So this must mean that this battle, or this whole episode, is going to be spent building alliances, getting ready for this final war. So I think that'll be pretty great. Hopefully, I think it's going to be better. I think the end of the season is going to be even better than this last episode was. So, which is good. Good. So I don't hate 3. I kind of like it now. Just took me a little while to come around, because it's, I don't know. Some things were. The problem is I'm expecting too much from the show, and that's not fair to the show either. Like I've read the books, and I'm like, no, this is supposed to happen. You're supposed to do these things, and that doesn't happen, and it's like, okay, it's actually my expectations are too high, and really I'm gonna have to wait for Martin to flesh all that out, because it's not the same doing one season over so many hours and then having a book that's 900 pages. It's not fair. All right, I think that's everything though. So I'll be back next week. I'll get this uploaded here in a second. Hope you enjoy episode 4. Hope you're not so down on episode 3 that you're crushed by it. Some people are really, there's tons of vitriol out there. I don't know. There's still some good. There's still a lot of good from it. Still look good. It's still well done in terms of what they did. Some of the tactics are goofy, fine. The ending is the same though. The ending, this is how it was always going to end. And then we're going to see where we go from here. So, all right. Until next time, everybody. Bye-bye.